afternoon, GPA students. It's Mr. Sargent here with your Day 82 recap video for ELA and for Science. Now, ELA today is going to be a very short lesson because we're going to focus on science today in this video. Now, in science, we're going to be focusing on the parts of a plant, so stay tuned. In ELA today, we worked on our Martin Luther King Jr. couplets. Now, if you don't remember what a couplet is, look at yesterday's video, day 81, to go through the lesson that's going to help you understand how to write a couplet. Now, we started our couplets the same way. When I get older, I want to be, or I want to do, or pretty much whatever your dream is. Think about what dream you have of your future. What job do you want to have? Where do you want to live? How do you want to help people? All right. So we have our first sentence pretty much done. All you have to do is write the second sentence in the couplet. Now, I've already read quite a few of yours, and they have been incredible, and I'm very proud of the work. Now, one thing I am going to say, one thing that may help you is this. For today's activity, don't worry about the syllables just yet. All right? Focus on the rhyming on the last words of the sentence. And like I said, if you still don't understand what couplets are and how to write them, go back to yesterday's video and I'm guaranteeing you it's gonna help you. So like I said before, today's ELA section in our video is going to be very short because we focus so much on our Martin Luther King Jr. couplets and our projects and things like that. So what we're going to focus the majority of our time today on is science. And primarily, we're going to be focusing on the parts of a plant. Now, before we do any of this, when I'm talking about plants, I don't need to be inside here or inside my classroom. So let's go outside and check on some plants and see how they're doing. So ladies and gentlemen, we are now outside where, well, the majority of plants live. But before we talk about the different parts of the plant, let's talk a little bit about what plants need. Now, can you name the 3 or 4 things that plants need? Well, first, we know all plants need water, don't they? All right? Things don't grow without water. We don't grow without water. So if you've ever had a plant or had a garden before, you know the importance of watering the plants. Another thing that plants need, well, sunlight. Now, we don't have a whole lot of that today. You can kind of see the sun over here. But do they need sunlight every day? No. But when they're talking about making their own food through photosynthesis, they use the sun to help them in that process. The third thing that plants need, well, we can see it on the ground, can't we? They need soil to grow in. This is where they're going to get their water. This is where they're going to get their nutrients. This is where they're going to get their minerals. This is where they're going to gain all of those materials that they're going to need to survive. Can you name the 4th thing that plants need? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's something that we breathe out. If you said carbon dioxide, you are 100% correct. Now, the tree's leaves, which we're going to talk about in a second, create and use photosynthesis to create their own food. Now, how do they do this? Well, they use carbon dioxide, they use water, and they use the sun to create their own food in the leaves. All right. So if you notice, all of these things add up to, well, a healthy plant. Now, if you look behind me, this may not seem like a healthy plant. I almost feel bad for it. We're going to give it a little bit of hug. Do trees need our hugs? No, that's not one of their needs. But if you notice, well, what season are we in? Very good. We're in winter. In fact, we're supposed to get some snow tomorrow. Now, in the fall and in the winter, the trees and plants, well, they sort of seem to die out. But are they really dead? No. So now let's talk about the 4 major parts of the plant. And we're going to use this tree as an example. Now, for some cases, you're going to have to use your imagination because, well, like I said before, there are no leaves. All right, so we're going to start with the first part of any plant, probably one of the most important parts of that plant. Now, this part is the part where they get their water, where they get their minerals, and it also anchors them into the ground. Now, if you don't know what anchoring means, it means, well, how often do we see a tree walking in Walmart? Yeah, we don't, do we? Because they stay in one place. Well, why don't trees fall down during every storm? Well, it's because of this first part of the plant, and that part is the roots. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the roots. So if you notice, you can actually see part of the tree roots here. They branch out down here and they go wide, because the wider they are, the more area that they cover and the more support they're going to give to that tree. But we don't see most of the roots. Why? Very good, because they're under the ground. Now, underneath this area right here are probably tens, if not hundreds of feet of roots, because the bigger the roots, the stronger the support and the more nutrients and water that they're going to get. The next part of the plant, well, gives it its strength. It gives it its support. It allows it to stand tall. Now, if you notice, there are some trees that are really, really, really tall. There are some plants that are really tall, and there are some plants that are really small. And the size of the plant will depend on our next part of the plant, and that is the stem. Now, with our tree here, we have our stem right here. If you look, it's a long, narrow piece of the plant. Now, this part right here gives the plant its strength and support. It allows it to stand up tall. Now, as we know, there are some plants with small stems. Okay, those are going to be smaller plants, aren't they? And we have some with larger stems. Now, for a tree, we call the stem of a tree the trunk. All right? Mainly because when I think of a trunk, I think of an elephant. I think of something strong. I think of something powerful. All right? So when we're talking about a tree, trees are tall, they're powerful, they're strong. And in order for them to be strong, they need a strong stem. Or in this case, a strong trunk. The next part of the plant we don't see today, it has left us. I told it to leave us alone. Very good, it's a leaf. Now, every plant has leaves. What's so important about leaves? Well, we talked earlier about how plants make their own food through the process called photosynthesis. Now, it's in the leaves that the plants are able to make their food. The water from the root goes up the stem or up the trunk into the leaves and mixes in with carbon dioxide, mixes in with the minerals, and you put that all together, mix that in with some sunlight, and guess what? You have photosynthesis, in which every leaf creates the amount of sugars and pretty much food that every plant needs to survive. Ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed an important part of every plant. And finally, the last part of a plant that we don't often see on trees, except for maybe in the spring on some, is the flower. All right? Now, the flower is where we collect pollen. Okay? Now, if we don't know what pollen is, in future videos, we're going to be talking about how pollen is transferred from one plant to another. We're going to be talking about how pollen is used to make a plant strong, to make a plant healthy, and we're also going to be talking about how the flower, well, ultimately it makes the plant look beautiful. Here are some examples of flowers that we are used to. So right there, we have seen the first 4 major parts of a plant. Now, in future videos, we're going to be talking about sort of the life cycle of a plant. So as I end this part of the video, I want you thinking, how do all plants start? Think about it, and in future videos, we're going to be talking about how each plant starts. So, using the Sciencetron 10,000, let's review the 4 parts of the plant. Down here at the bottom that collects all the water and minerals, you're right, it is the roots. Very good. Next, we have the part that gives the plant the support, gives it the strength, the stem. Next, we have the parts that create the food, where photosynthesis takes place. We have the leaves. And finally, we have the place where there's pollen, the place that we always look at that looks so beautiful, where we see the smell of a flower. You're right, we have the flower, I said it. All right, so knowing these 4 parts are so important to understanding all of the parts of plants. Like I said before, we will be talking more about the different parts of the plants and how they're used to create even more plants. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for an incredible day 82. It's hard to believe it's been 82 days. You guys and ladies are doing such an incredible job. And I know I've said this probably 1,000 times, but I couldn't be any more proud of you. All right? So, enjoy your evening. And ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait to see each and every one of you tomorrow.